mics.
Coach C.D. Kaplan, Card Chronicle. Have you been able to work with this new, essentially new squad long enough to develop what your defensive philosophy might be? And if so, how might that look schematically?
Yeah, that's a great question. First of all, it's pretty cool. Afternoon in June to have a press conference, look around, have a packed room like this. The passion for Louisville basketball never ceases to amaze me. So kudos to Cardinal Nation and to you guys for coming out. Love that question. When you ask, have I been around my guys to know enough of what our defensive identity is going to look like? We had a pretty good idea going in of what we do and how we do it defensively. Obviously, when we recruit, we take those things into consideration. Who are the type of players that kind of fit who we play? I think I might have been asked this at the press conference, the introductory press conference, I'm not sure. We are predominantly, I would say, 99.9% a half-court man-to-man team. I think it's an interesting dichotomy that we do play fast on the offensive end. There's a lot of possessions in our game. We tilt the floor. But our philosophy in the half court is more of a half court man-to-man team. I compare us schematically a lot to Alabama in that regard. Both have a lot of possessions in their game. They push the ball offensively, but hang their hat on a tough, tenacious, nasty half court man-to-man defense.
Coach, how did the Bahamas thing come about? What do you hope to get out of it? Can you take us through that?
Yeah, first of all, tip of the cap to our administration for making this happen in a very, very short turnaround, because it's not something that was planned on. Again, that's the commitment of basketball being good around here and the things that it takes for basketball to be good, the wind to be at our back, and with a completely new roster, signing 13 players in 2.5 months, coming from parts all over. You're limited in a lot of ways in terms of the NCAA rules in the amount of time you can be on the floor with your players per week. I'm sure all you guys are aware of this, maybe not the specifics, but 4 hours is the time that you're allowed to spend on basketball. That includes film, that includes anything on the floor. Obviously, you have additional time for other things like strength and conditioning and conditioning. The total number of hours is 8. When you go on a foreign trip, the NCAA allows you, on top of those 4 hours that you have throughout the week, to have 10 full practice days, the type of practice days that you would have throughout the course of the season, where there aren't those type of limitations. So it's great. It really allows us to speed up kind of the growth curve of this team, both implementing what we do, how we do it, our system, our terminology, teaching guys how we practice. The philosophy being that, when we get to the end of those 10 practices, we get a great head start. So when we get back together, when it really, really starts ramping up and it counts for real, when practice starts at the end of September and the beginning of October, we can look back to these 10 practices and go, man, we're way farther ahead than we should have been. So that was the main point of it. Obviously, these foreign tours, there's a cultural aspect to it as well, where you get to leave the country, go somewhere else. That's going to be cool. The other part of it is just the team building, the team chemistry, the camaraderie, the rapport, through getting to spend more time together on the floor, and then, obviously going on a trip together and being at a pretty darn cool hotel and resort for a while, getting to know each other, putting some suntan lotion on, swimming, doing a little wave surfing or whatever the crap you call it, body surfing. So we're going to have a good time as well. So I think we'll be further along in terms of our basketball system, and we'll be further along in terms of what we call the power of the unit.
We'll talk back.
Pat, sorry. Thank you. Just thinking back to the first few weeks of summer workouts, is there a moment that sticks out to you where you kind of seen these guys, show off and compete the hardest? Like, has there been a moment that sticks out where you think about
Yeah, in terms of a moment where I thought they competed the hardest, I think that's been something that I've been, I don't want to say pleasantly surprised or pleased with, because I expect it. I mean, I think these guys going hard as crap every day. They're working hard. That's one of the things we hang our hat on is competing, right? We compete in June, we compete in July, we compete in the preseason, we compete in practice in January and February. So that is always at the kind of center of what we do. Is there one moment? Is there one loose ball? Is there one charge? Is there one crash the glass for an offensive rebound and a tip and a put back? I don't know if I can pick one right now, but the dudes have been getting after it and they're playing hard, competing.
You talk about team camaraderie and bringing this group together. It's a group of veterans, obviously, except for one really talented freshman. In these early stages, are you seeing maybe a couple guys step to the forefront as far as from a leadership perspective?
It's a good question. I mean, with an older group, savvy veteran guys, and they've been successful where they've been, and they come from good programs and good coaches, and they all, I would say, they lead in their own ways. You know, some guys are a little bit more vocal. Javon Hadley, you know, as a for instance. I'm picking him out, but because, you know, you hear his voice a lot. You know, he's and then there's other guys that lead more by, you know, what they do in their example. You know, they're guys that are in the gym early, that are in there late, how they go about their business. So I like to think we have a team full of guys that lead and that lead in different ways. I mean, even the young dudes, Kanai, you know, he's been awesome since he's been here. He was away last year at the high school he went to, so he's a little bit used to being away, being in a dorm, living away from mom and dad. He goes about his business like a vet. James Scott, I've talked about him ad nauseum, just the advanced basketball mind that he has, the advanced approach to work. So I'm proud of even those young guys, not just the old guys, in terms of how they're going about stuff.
You guys, when you guys ask a question, make sure you identify yourself so Coach can put a name to a face. So go ahead, Jeff.
Jeff Lighty here. Coach, is there anybody that's standing out? I know you had limited practice, but is there anybody that's standing out so far after recruiting 13 new guys?
That's hard to say. I can't sit here on June 25th and go, man, this guy. You know, everybody's shown flashes. Listen, the June part of this, and I've been doing this a long time. My staff, it drives them nuts. I always say this. I've been doing this a long time. I think I'm a dinosaur now. When you get to, I don't know what point in your career where you're considered a dinosaur. I see some of these young coaches, and I'm starting to feel like an old coach. Certain social media apps they're on and crap like that. I'm like, holy man. But there's been times where everybody has done some really good things. And June it's a breakdown period, right? You guys have heard it. Some of you have written articles on it. Just our approach to strength and conditioning at the beginning when guys come in, and that's, we talk about competing and we talk about toughness, two things that we take pride in. We think part of that is our approach to the weight room and strength and conditioning and being the toughest, most competitive team on the floor every time we take the floor. That's our goal, is part of it in there. And they get broken down, they get beat up a little bit. So kind of build it slowly in terms of what we do on the floor. First couple of weeks, it's more small group skill development type things where we're implementing our system that way. And then toward the end of every week, and then a little bit more as we've gotten to the end of it, we've done a little bit more team stuff. But there's been a lot of guys that have been highlights on different days.
See you.
Pat C.L. Brown with the Courier Journal. Before NIL was approved, some of the criticisms and concerns from coaches was that it's going to divide the locker room. It's going to fester jealousy, that kind of stuff in the locker room. How do you what's your philosophy in terms of trying to mitigate that, knowing that, you know, you had this different guys are getting different money necessarily in NIL?
Yeah, I mean, our three things: relentless effort, competitive excellence, and the power of the unit. I've said that a lot. Maybe it gets boring in interviews and press conferences, but we believe it in so much. The power of the unit is the uncommon commitment to the guy next to you. In this new age, with that being a dynamic and being a factor in every locker room around the country, I think the teams that have the maturity, the wherewithal to be professionals and go about their business every day, regardless of those things, and be committed to the good of the whole and to love your teammates, right? And that's a nonstop, everyday dynamic and everyday process that we're selling our culture and selling the commitment to the guy next to you. Listen, you walk down any business in America down the hallway and you look into that office, that office, that office, that office, everybody makes different amounts of money, right? And it shouldn't be the type where you're going and comparing. That's just not the world. This is more grown-up stuff now. And for an enterprise to reach its potential, everybody has to be committed to winning and be committed to the ultimate goal of the team being successful. And that's just part of the dynamic every day of what we do, what we sell to our team.
Eric and Corey.
Eric Crawford, WDRB. Pat, there's so much data now when you're out recruiting that from a basketball standpoint, you get out there and look at these guys, you have a chance to kind of compare what they are on the court to what you thought they would be on film and the data. Does this team look the way that you hoped it would look from that standpoint? I know there's no data with personality.
Yeah, you know, I mentioned I've been doing this a long time. I'm a dinosaur. You don't evaluate in June. You don't. You don't, especially in this new world. I mean, yes, what we saw on tape, we see in person. I know the caliber of people and players that we have, but at least I can, you know, and especially in this new world where you have transfers and new players coming in. A lot of times there's a lot of parts. This time, 13. It's a completely new team. And everything being new, this environment, this building, the strength and conditioning, the terminology, the system, new teammates, new relationships, you know, not just here, everywhere, heads are spinning, you know. So what a big emphasis on us is these first several weeks is our process, is how we go about our daily business. The attention to detail and the excellence in the weight room every day, each repetition in the thing. When we go to practice, the energy, we have to bring the attention to detail. This is how we do it. This is our process. This is our process. And if you can be very, very consistent with that, I believe, throughout the course of not just a few summer weeks, not just 2 summer months, not just 3 or 4 months, but if you can stay consistent till the final buzzer sounds, you know, good things happen. The outcome takes care of itself. And through adversity, through the ups and downs of a season. So I'll be able to let you know, heck, not even at the end of the summer, maybe not even after the Bahamas. There's always that time when it's like, here we go. It's clicking. I'm feeling it, you know. And some teams, it happens like that. Some teams take a little bit longer. My team at Charleston 2 years ago, a lot of new faces, man, and it just clicked sooner. And shoot, we won 1 million games out of the box and ended up winning 31 games. Last year, we stunk early. We stunk. And, you know, the world is, the ceiling's falling. What the heck? They were top 25 last year, and we went up to this deal at the Naval Academy, and we stunk. Consistent. We ended up winning 1 million straight. So it's, I might be able to tell you in 3.5 weeks, I might be able to tell you in 3.5 months, but, you know, staying focused on that process, that's boring as crap to say, and you guys roll your eyes, but that's what we do.
Coach Corey here. How important to you has it been to have a guy like Payton Siva help revitalize a program?
I mean, Payton Siva in any organization makes them better. I mean, in our program, yes, he makes us better. Payton Siva's in the law firm down the street, the car dealership, the restaurant, the schools. What? Car dealership? Kelsey Chevrolet from our family of years. I always say. He's a world-class dude, man. I mean, he's obviously basketball, brilliant, accomplished, national champion, all the stuff that we say all the time. But he's just a world-class dude. He just lights up a room. He brings energy. I love guys that go about their daily business with a smile on their face. Payton feels blessed to be in this building and back in this program, but he feels blessed to be walking around with his kids in the community. But yes, Payton makes us better, and I love having him.
Matt McGavick, Sports Illustrated. Pat, going back to the roster construction front, the majority of the players either are coming from teams who went to the NCAA tournament or have some sort of postseason type accolade, like Conference Player of the Year, Tournament Player of the Year, so on and so forth. Was that something you sort of took into account when putting together the roster in an attempt to maybe like lay the foundation for the culture you're wanting to establish here?
I mean, it's a factor. When we look into things when we decide who we're going to recruit, who we're going to go after, they win. We take that into consideration. I mean, it's not always, you could get a really good player that was just in a bad situation that didn't win where he was at, but, you know, you like, that's definitely something that you consider a guy's come from winning programs for sure.
Mr. Tony, KWAP Sports TV. I'm curious about what you've seen out of the guys so far as who's going to be the dogs on your roster, and what is your approach to putting together your starting five?
Approach to, well, who the dogs, I mean, hopefully got a bunch of them, you know. It's like picking out who stood out, you know, picking out who's the dog. I mean, dogs are competitors, dogs are winners, dogs are guys that don't back down, that grit their teeth, that bow their neck, that I like to think we got a bunch of them. In terms of my approach to deciding our starting lineup, compete. There's nobody in that locker room that was promised anything in recruiting, and there's nobody in that locker room that's been promised anything to this point. I really cannot have a starting lineup conversation until probably the day before the first game. You might say, oh, this is the guys that started in the Bahamas. Well, those are the guys that were the most productive in practice up to that point. Maybe not. But there's a lot that goes into that.
Yeah, Rick Boach, WDRB. When you have 13 guys, I mean, you're starting, as you said, completely over. What's the most challenging thing to establish, first of all, to get them to buy in?
The most challenging thing to get them to buy. I don't think there's a big challenge to create buy-in. We got a lot of guys that are, I'd say all of them, they're leaning forward, they're eager, they're receptive. You know, because it could be easy for somebody that's been somewhere for a long time, that's caught in their ways, that, you know, this is the way I've done it. They've been awesome. They've been completely open, accepting to what we do and how we do it, which has been awesome. I don't know if this is the most challenging thing, but terminology. Because in basketball, I mean, there's a universal basketball language, but different programs call different actions, different things, and different, you know, so sometimes that takes a little bit of getting used to. And then just, not only, I mean, I feel like our guys are doing an unbelievable job of bonding off the court, right? I mean, you just, whether we do team functions, just them hanging around, there seems like there's a great rapport, but then there's a rapport that has to be built over time on the floor. You know, especially guys that have been in a certain program for a long time and kind of know when this guy yings, I yang, and when he zigs, I zag. And part of that is a process that will take some time as we go through the rest of the summer and into the preseason.
Last 4 questions, guys who have mics. Tim, then Ken.
Tim Sullivan, Parts Unknown. 2 questions. One, this basketball program is dependent on for revenue in this athletic department. And you, as a coach, are also kind of a public figure, more than kind of. Are you getting spread too thin at all in the demands of trying to be that public personality? And the second question is, what's the story on the tattoo?
I'm trying to think which one I want to answer first. The first part of the question is, are you getting spread too thin? I've said this, I think at my press conference, I can't remember, but somebody told me in business a long time ago that you don't have to be the smartest one in the room, but it's helpful and you better own the smartest room. I got a smart room. I got unbelievable support staff around me, right? You talk about fundraising, I mean, if you mention that, but meeting people, cultivating relationships, people that we have in this department that do that and make it conducive for me within my schedule. Like, you have to meet with this person. Boom, that person's in my office this morning at 9 a.m. Can't tell you who it is. And man, I enjoy that. I love building relationships with people and interacting with people. It's one of the things I'm passionate about. But they do a great job of, they're like point guards, man. They set the table for me. They're great assist guys. And it's important for me, like all basketball players do. When somebody throws you a great assist, you got to point to the passer, and that's what I'm doing right now. I'm acknowledging the help that I have. The people that, you know, Steph, who's my executive assistant, unbelievable. You see Lottie back there, you see Rocco, you see, so no, I think the support that I have and the way that people look out for me and value my time and know what the most important things that I have to do and then lead me in that direction, and I trust them implicitly. It's allowed me to focus on right now what's most important, and it's those young men over there in that locker room. But trust me, man, I know there's 1,000 plates that I have to spin. I know the significance and the importance of basketball being successful at this university and how that impacts the rest of the city. I'm well aware of that. But I think the people that are in place to help me has made that job much, much easier.
What about the tattoo?
Oh, the tattoo? I mean, it was late in life. My daughter, like, I walked in and she was like, "Who are you? What in the heck has happened?" She was crying. At Winthrop a couple years ago, I told the guys, if we go to the tournament, I'll get a tattoo, and if we go to the Sweet 16 this year, I think it was 21. It was the year we came here and played in the bubble thing with DJ Burns was on our team, and Chandler Baldwin. We had a really, really good team. And I said, if we go to the Sweet 16, I'm getting a sleeve all the way down here. That's what I told him. And we went to the tournament, so I got it. We didn't go to the Sweet 16, so here's that. So I don't know what it's going to take at Louisville for me to get the sleeve. Josh Hurd right now is crapping his pants. So we'll jump off that bridge when we cross it.
Ken Taylor to the LKY. You mentioned, you talked about some of the outside things you have to do. Earlier this week, you sent out a video to season ticket holders.
Yeah, man, I'm glad you mentioned it.
Renewals are due here coming up on July 1st. Make the case.
July
for
1st,
people.
like, you know, it's, you know, people's hard-earned dollar, or hard-earned, you know, and they have a lot of choices in today's day and age. I mean, obviously in this town, I know how important basketball is, and I know the passion that people have for it. And I know it's been a little bit of a tough time here recently, but you know, I would passionately convey to the people of this town to give us a chance, to give this team a chance. Can't make promises in life because you can't always, but the thing I'm going to tell you is it's going to be a team you're going to be proud of. So yeah, July 1st, a big, big day. People that are listening out there, you know, give Louisville basketball a chance again. And then, you know, the other thing is, you mentioned the NIL world, how important, right, NIL is, and the 502 circle and the guys over there, man, they've worked their tails off. And for our fan base that's listening out there, y'all know how important that is. And we ask people to step up, and y'all have stepped up. We need you to continue to. And people say all the time, like, you know, I love Louisville basketball. I think the thing that we're asking you to do in the 502 circle in the NIL space is to show your love, right? And everybody's in different situations, depending on, you know, what your financial situation is, but contributing to that is a big, big deal. That's the lifeblood of collegiate basketball. And like I said, those guys are working their butts off, and we're very, very lucky to have them here in Louisville as a part of what we're building. So thank you for those that have, and I'd ask you guys to continue to consider being a part of that initiative.
Brooks Holton again from the CJ. Did I cut someone?
Oh, you're good.
I'm sorry.
What did we say before? It was 22,000 people. Everybody gave $100. That's $2.2 million.
Let's do it.
I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but.
So when we spoke last, I guess just several weeks ago, you mentioned, you know, that Michael Cassidy has a bunch of, you know, he has like, you know, just like books upon books of, you know, like your offensive system. I'm just wondering, you know, how much do you plan to get those installed, or, you know, do you have an expectation for, just on how far along?
Great question. That's an awesome question. No, the installation process takes a while, and it evolves throughout the course of the season. The guts and the core of what we do and how we play offensively is based on more randomness. We call it the beauties in the randomness and our flow and how we play after makes and after misses and after an action breaks down. And there is a method to that madness as well. But obviously your ability to execute, set plays and get certain players certain shots at different parts of the floor at different parts of the game is very important. And that's a process that kind of evolves. We've began to introduce some of those things, kind of the shapes we play out in some of our set plays. Mike's really, my staff's really, really good, and I value those guys tremendously. They do an unbelievable job in the areas they're responsible for. And I think one of the things that we've done a good job of, and Mike's really good at this, is he takes the complicated and makes it simple. So in his mind, in my mind, in terms of the offensive coordinator, for instance, it could be complicated in his mind, but the way that maybe you organize, you structure, you label, you name your terminology, it simplifies it for the players. That might not make a lot of sense, but sometimes it takes a ton of time, like hours and hours and hours and hours, to come up with a method to simplify it for the guys, you know. And I think we've done a good job of that over the years. We've started to do some of that the last couple practices. The guys have been great. They have fun with it. We talk about GBT all the time. I might have said this before. I hate when I say stuff twice, but Joe Madden, who's the I forget who he's coaching now, but he used to be the coach of the Cubs when he used to kick the Reds' butt. And he used to say GBT, great baseball talk. He loves great baseball talk. He loves guys talking X's and O's in the dugout, in the hotels, on the airplanes. And we value GBT here. We have a veteran group that loves to talk hoop.
Kendrick?
Coach Kendrick asked this from Wave. When you have a team full of new guys like that, how much does it help that you brought a couple of guys over with you from Charleston and know what to expect from practices,
Yeah.
know what your expectations are,
So,
and can relay that?
yeah, Rain Smith, James Scott, Kobe Rogers are three guys that obviously are ahead of the curve in terms of all that because they know it all already. And that's been great. It's been awesome to have those guys. First of all, they're winning players, they're championship players. They helped us do a lot at Charleston. They're great communicators, they're great teammates. So in not a way like I'm a know-it-all, I know what I'm talking about and you don't. They do a good job in their own way of, I know Coach Kelsey seems a little crazy right now, this is what he means by that. You know what I mean? One of those deals. So no, it's awesome to have some of those guys that kind of know our deal.
Okay, Coach. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.